Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another edition of our Double Take webinar series. We have a huge, great bunch of updates that I am so excited to share with all of you. So thank you all so much for joining. Super excited for the updates we get to share with y'all today. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll dive on it. Okay, we're going to get started with probably the biggest update, which is a complete redesign to our AI journal entries and AI transactions. So you'll find this if you're on Scale, which is the plan that includes our AI journal entries and AI transactions. And essentially, what we have done is we have replaced the document plus prompt system with a far more intuitive and far more powerful agentic chat system. So now, if you have AI journal entries and you open a document, instead of trying to figure out the perfect prompt that would exactly describe the situation you're in, you can now go to our AI composer up here in the top right-hand corner, and you'll have a few options. First is if you have a similar journal entry that you've posted in the past, you can use that similar journal entry. So you can just click use similar transaction. Maybe we find a prior Stripe journal entry, and we can go ahead and use that as our reference transaction that the AI can say, okay, let's take this document and make it kind of look like this transaction. I won't actually run this one, so I'm going to show you all the other options. Second is if you've already created a prompt that you've used in the past, you can still use that prompt. Your prompt library is still here. So here, if we've got a striped prompt, we can continue to use that as well. And last but not least, and what I think is the coolest and most powerful, and certainly the best for getting started, is you can just type into the chat. So you can say, please make a JE for this. And then I will add one more note, which is don't consolidate the lines. Use a separate debit credit for everything. And with that, the AI will just go ahead and get started. This chat experience is agentic, which means it has access to tools. So you can see it is calling different tools here. It reads through the chart of accounts. It looks at any memories or skills, which I'll talk about momentarily, that might be available in this client's file. And then it will go and see what it can do here. So for starters, it's looking at things like accounts receivable, bad debt, cash, customer balances, and it's saying, okay, those are not exactly the same as the accounts listed in the chart of accounts, but they're pretty darn similar. Cash, I guess, could maybe be mapped to multiple accounts. So it's going to do what it can do, and then it will pause and ask you some questions. So it says, okay, let's ask the user, what should we use for cash? And I'll say Stripe balance. What should we use for revenue? I'll say subscription sales. What should we use for bad debt? We'll do allowance for bad debt, although I'll note you can actually have the AI create new accounts for you in this flow, but I'll use the one that already works here. How should I map customer balance adjustments? We'll do customer prepayments and then unearned. Actually, we'll give it a different answer here. Customer prepayments for customer balances, and then discounts for customer balance adjustment. And then it will take your answers, incorporate those back into the journal entry. It may ask me some follow-up questions here. Okay, class and location. We're going to just skip class and location for now. We'll have it, excuse me, auto assign a journal entry number. And now it's got the journal entry that we're going to build here. All right, so it just built that journal entry. We can see it's got our full debit and credit mapping. It adds a description here. It gives me everything here that we could want. And the nice thing about this journal entry, so of course I could go ahead and post this, but the really nice thing about this journal entry is you, instead of needing to like go and manually tweak things in the journal entry, which of course you still can, you can also tell the AI to do this. So we can say something like, actually, I do want classes. Add the admin class to all lines. And then the AI can think about that, add the admin class, and then we can review its output again. One thing I'll note is all of this happens asynchronously. So you can like leave the screen, you can leave this page and then come back. And then your work, you won't lose any of your work. It will just sort of pause and wait for you if it has any questions. Of course, now we can see it has added the admin class for every line in this journal entry. We can continue making making edits here as well. But the last thing that we're going to do, so of course we could post this, but the one other thing that we'd recommend doing here is we can say, this looks great, save it as a skill. So skills sort of replace our prompt library. And the basic idea is a skill is very similar to a prompt, but it is a much more comprehensive document of everything that you want the AI to do to post this journal entry. Skills are something you're going to be seeing a lot more of in Double over the coming months. And is something that if you're already working with Claude, you're probably very familiar with. So skills are the sort of analogy I like to think of them most closely to is they're like SOPs. So it's like, what do you want the AI to do in this use case? And so we can see here it saved this CSV period, summary journal entry skill. And then if we ever want to access our skills, it's right here in this thing that looks to me like a crumbling cookie. And so we can see that skill here. It will write a very exhaustive SOP. And then, of course, if you wanted to make edits to that here as well, you could do so. And then that way, in future runs, next time you upload the next month's version of this point of sale file, you can just say use the stripe JE or use the CSV period summary JE skill, and it will just remember all the things it talked to you about in the previous case. It won't ask you the same set of questions that it's already asked you about. So in this respect, I think it's weird, but AI feels very human. Like it's like first you do the thing and you tell the AI how to do the thing and then it does the thing. Then it like writes down what it knows and then it does the thing, and maybe it still has a couple of questions for some weird edge cases in the next month that weren't in the previous month. But overall, it sort of learns from that experience, and of course, it can take those edge cases and reincorporate those back into the skill. And basically, what this looks like to me is it looks very similar to onboarding a human. You have to put in the actual effort to make sure this thing works in your in the environment that you need to work in and can be productive. But once you delegate it, the AI can actually operate much more autonomously and much more capably than I think we have maybe given these models credit for. So that's how AI transactions work. I'll mention actually one more thing. So I talked about skills. We also have a memory system, um, which works the same way. The basic distinction is a skill is like an SOP for a particular task, whereas memory is like stuff that is going to be super relevant to this client long term. So we might say like save the fact that they use Stripe as their point of sale to memory. And then it can actually save those details to memory. And then I'll show you where memory lives as well momentarily. So it saved those to memory. And we can see our memory in our client settings in memory here. So it's got that here as well. All right, with that, I will go ahead and pause for questions. Okay. Chet asked, are the skills client specific or are they available for all clients? Right now, the skills are client specific, although we are working on mechanisms for allowing you to share skills across multiple clients. Simple ones being like copying skills from client to client, more complex being things like having templates. So all of those should come in the coming weeks and months. That's definitely something that we think a lot about, and we know many of you have examples of work you don't want to need to restart and redo from scratch every single time. So not something we have today, but definitely on the road. Okay. Jordan asked, does the AI journal entry have any type of support that could be exported? Thinking about what we could provide to auditors as support for journal entries. It's a good question. I know we are working on some systems to allow you to sort of see the reasoning trace and reasoning history, and then I guess you could add that to the journal entry itself. So that should be coming in the coming weeks and months. Hopefully you will find that suitable for export for the auditors. Okay. An anonymous attendee asked, if someone was just getting started with the new update, would you encourage they start with something like, I'd like to create a journal entry for XYZ, or would you recommend we start by writing out a full prompt like before? Definitely would recommend just getting started with the chat. Like in the same way where if I was going to ask my colleague Shana here on this call, like, hey, I need you to help me create this journal entry, that's how I'd start it. Like literally talk to it like it's a human, and it will help you do the work. That said, again, the other option that is a good option is that similar transaction. So if you want to start, like if you know you created like an identical version of this thing last month, sometimes that's just an easier way to get started. And so again, if you wanted to do that, that would be in your in one of these chats, you go to your AI composer and you'll see this use similar transactions option. And then from here, you can search, and this is just your list of transactions in the ledger. Jessica asked, is the process similar for bills? Yes, it is the same for bills. An anonymous attendee asked, is this AI offered in any other area of double, or is it just in the JE area? Sorry, I am new to this. No need to apologize. It's a great question. Today, this type of conversational experience is primarily located within the journal entries, but if you stay tuned for future double take webinars, I am sure you will see this in a lot more places to come. Chet asked, do we use our own Claude subscription for the AI, or is it provided by Double? And if so, are there usage limits? Great question. So Double provides the AI, and there will be usage limits. We're going to roll out pretty generous usage limits in the coming weeks. And so far from the testing that we've done, literally no one will be affected by the usage limits. So we'll have more to share on that in the coming weeks. Of course, with our MCP, some updates I will mention soon. You can also do this type of interaction. You will be able to do this type of interaction directly within Claude as well. Okay. Next, and sort of very different change of pace and topic, we're going to talk about templates. So one quick update in your email templates, and especially in your reminder emails, we have a couple of new and important merge tags. So especially for the tax folks in the room, this is a good one to listen to. And so the two new merge tags that we added are here in the body merge tags. You'll note that we have right now unanswered questions count. And in addition to that, we've added requests count and requests detail list. So I'm going to pull those both here so you can see what they both look like. New merge tags. And then I'm going to show you what they both look like, and then also how they change any behavior. So we're going to go ahead and save this template, and then we're going to create a draft email. Okay, so what these new merge tags do. First is the new merge tag for count includes the count of signatures, organizers, bank connection requests, sort of all of the new things that you can put in the portal that are not just transaction questions and non-transaction questions. And then the second thing is the request details list shows the detailed list of all of the things that you are still waiting on from your client. So this can be really helpful, especially during tax time. If you want your clients to see, here are the things that we're still waiting on you for. And speaking of organizers, I know folks have been asking for organizer reminders for quite a while. If you include either of these merge tags in your email, in the email body, then we will automatically start sending reminders about those objects. So if you have requests, an open organizer, and you have these merge tags in your reminder email, then on the normal reminder sequence and reminder cadence, we're going to send automated notifications about those organizers in the portal. So here, super minor modification, but basically you can just take the requests count merge tag and replace the unanswered questions count. So we have request count questions. Maybe you change this to requests as well. We need your help within the portal. And then we can take this merge tag here as well. Here is a list of what we're waiting on you for, what we still need your help with. I'll be a little more polite, even though I'm ending a sentence with a preposition. And there we go. So if we update that merge tag, that's all we need to do here. And then we can just click save template, and then we're off to the races. Okay, Des asked, for the request details list, if we don't use tax organizers or do any tax work, where is that list pulling from? So that list is still pulling from it pulls from the organizers, e-signatures, or if you use Double's bank feeds, the bank connection requests. Those are the three additional items it uses above and beyond the transaction and non-transaction questions. Okay, Laura asked another question. So basically, just to really quickly go back to that draft email so y'all can see what this looks like. So it is still going to consolidate your non-transaction questions, and the sort of items that are separately called out there are the organizers and the bank connections and the e-signatures. Chet asked, can we get an option to list all bookkeeping questions? I think this is a great idea. Definitely we'll take it back to the product team. So Shane, if you can write this down later, since I can't write things down on a subsequent screen.
Yeah, I got it.
Take that back to the product team. Okay, Christy asked, will it ever list the subjects of the requests so they can see whether there is anything new or if the requests are old that they aren't ready to answer yet? Great question. So I think Chet's feedback would address that. So you'd be able to see the list of all the questions, even if they're non-transaction questions. Um, all right. Well, we're going to go on to the next update here. All right, accruals. So we have a quite a few new updates to our accrual surfaces. I'm going to start with the first, which is catch-up accruals. So use case here is, let's say we're in June, and we found a new prepaid expense that actually started in May, but we've already closed the books for May, and we can't go ahead and backdate that entry. So that's a great use case for catch-up accruals. So what we can do here is if you click the recognition start date field, you'll see this new option, include catch-up period. If you do that, you'll get this new catch-up period option. And if we add 1 here and change this to 11, that should be fine. Then you'll see we have a catch-up entry made for May in June that is for the full, for 1/12 of the amount. And then the other 11 are, oh, sorry, actually, there should be 12 still. So the other basically 12 or the other 11 are made as though like the first one was made in May, it's just made in June. So that's the first one here is catch-up accruals or catch-up periods and accruals. Next is non-depreciating fixed assets. So this is an entirely new fixed asset type. So if you go to your types here, you'll see a new option, fixed asset non-depreciating. Primary use case here is for land. So if you don't depreciate a fixed asset, but you still track a schedule for it, you'll just be asked to map the original cost. And then when you go and add that asset to your accruals, you'll have the option to have notes here, but obviously you won't set up a depreciation schedule because there is not. Okay, actually back to templates. We have some updates to, we now have an accruals templates manager. And so this is particularly helpful if you, as a practice, sort of standardize a useful lives for some of your fixed assets. You can basically set up these presets in your templates and then apply them to clients the same way you would apply any other template. So if we like office furniture always depreciates over 84 months, computers always over 60, you can apply those into a client rather than needing to set them up one by one. All right, and last but not least, we also have finally asset dispositions and impairments. So I'm going to go to a schedule here. If we have an asset that we are either selling or impairing, you can do that now on your accrual schedule. Just click these 3 dots and you'll see an option that says adjust asset value. Once you click here, you'll see you have 2 options here, disposal or impairment. I'm going to walk through the disposal flow, but the impairment flow is virtually the same. And with a disposal, you can choose whether you received sale proceeds. So we can say we got $1,000 for this computer. We're going to post the proceeds to Chase Checking. We're going to post the gain and loss to our gain and loss account. We're going to say sold laptop as the memo. And then you'll see what double does is it makes the entry here. So we're zeroing out our accumulated depreciation and our original cost, and we are writing the remainder to the exchange gain or loss and then the checking account. And then we're zeroing out any posted entries into the future in the that were for depreciation that's no longer going to be occurring. Okay, that is it for the accruals update. So now I'll pause for questions on accruals. And for those of you who've asked off-topic questions that sort of aren't on the topic of the sort of feature that we're discussing here, I promise I will come back to this at the end. Erica asked, are accruals available for Zero or only QuickBooks at the moment? At the moment, only QuickBooks, although we are discussing internally, hoping that we might add some more scale capabilities to Zero in the coming months. But we'll confer with the product team. All right, next update is to the comments UX. I know some folks have strong feelings here, so excited to get your feedback. I know we've already started to take your feedback here, and I promise you, our job is not done. We know some of you are frustrated with this, and we are not just trying to like push you guys into a corner. We do think this is an improvement. We do think it can be a great improvement for everyone. Without further ado, I'll talk about our comments update. So overall, the comments update is designed to do a couple of things. First, it's designed to polish a bunch of like very clunky feeling UI. And I hope everyone can appreciate that this should feel like a more modern, less clunky experience. That is kind of the broad arc of Double from the time when I was the primary product designer and everything looked clunky to our head of design, Ryan, taking things over and gradually fixing all of my mistakes. So this is one of the last mistakes we fixed here. And we did a couple of things. First, we didn't take away any functionality. We did change a couple of defaults. So right now, you're just seeing all of your notifications, or sorry, all of your comments in your comment inbox. But instead of defaulting to unread or open, it's defaulting to just all. That way, it's just an easier, cleaner chronological feed, the same way as if you'd opened your Facebook notifications. We still have the ability to filter for all of these. So you can filter for your open comments, same as before, and you can filter for your unread comments as well. I don't have any unreads. So you can still use all of those same core capabilities. And then same thing with the client list. So on the comments here as well, we actually did add an additional practice setting. I assume it's in workflow because that's where we put every setting. Okay, if you have the display open comment count setting on, you'll see all your open comments here just like before. If you have it off, you will see only your unread comments. So if I go to Democo here, and then go ahead and mark this as unread, that's when you'll see open comments here. The reason for this is some people have come to really depend on status as a core workflow mechanism in comments, and we wanted to keep that around. Other people find status extremely confusing. It like gets in the way of their being able to use comments. So what this does is it sort of enshrines unread as an equal first party filtering mechanism so that you can say, okay, I just want to see my unread comments. And that will work very similarly to how things work in Slack, how they work in Teams, how they work in pretty much every other chat system. So we wanted to sort of harmonize those defaults with the defaults people expect from other systems. So that said, we are continuing to make improvements here, both to the UI as well as in the coming, I think this week, these should stick. So if you like go to open comments here, that should persist going forward. So if you want to always just see your open comments, you'll be able to do so. And I know some other folks have feedback about how they can make this work for other similar use cases that they had in the past. We don't want to break people's workflows here. I promise y'all, we are continuing to listen to this feedback, continuing to make iterative improvements here. So continue to make your voices heard. I know that a fast rising candidate is to revert this change. We're not likely to revert the change, but we are going to continue to incorporate additional improvements here so that this can be both a more polished UI experience that is more intuitive for most users, while also allowing the workflow flexibility that firms needed from the. Okay, now I'll open up the Q&A. Okay, Esta said, I love the new message setup. Hopefully I'm not the only one. Thank you, Esta. I appreciate that. Okay, an anonymous attendee asked, will improvements be made in the client UI? For example, when answering a question, if the client clicks enter, it submits the answer instead of going to a new line. I have clients that really struggle with this. I also have clients that complain they can't filter questions by date. The portal remains clunky and could be much better. That's great feedback. I know we actually have this as a configurable option for users for comments. So you can choose whether writing a message, whether hitting enter on a message either sends the message or starts a new line. This is like a really interesting 50-50 split where some people like everyone believes that like it should absolutely be one way, but 50% of people believe one thing and 50% of people believe the other. So we could probably add a setting in the portal to let people choose on this. So this is good feedback. We'll definitely take that back to the product. Okay. All right. Next update is to our MCP. So I demoed our MCP at the last double take, but in case you were not on that double take, basically the MCP is taking Double's API, which is like everything you can do in Double, and bringing it into the AI chatbots that you use to work in your business. So that's Claude, that's ChatGPT, that's Copilot, that's Gemini. So anything that supports an MCP, you can use Double's MCP for. Search the Help Center if you need instructions on how to connect the MCP. But the update I want to talk about is the many new features that we added to it. So when I first demoed it last month, we basically only had tasks and I think adding comments. Those were kind of the only couple of things that we had. We've added many more surfaces within Double. We added the ability to see and manage users, see and manage client questions, client properties, your close status and close assignees. You can create clients now in the MCP. You can add and update templates in the MCP and apply templates in the MCP. You can review your activity log in the MCP. You can now see comments that have been left in Double in the MCP. You can now write and edit notes, and you can manage your timers. So many, many, many more things coming into the MCP in Double. And we want to continue that job is not done. So over time, we want to, and hopefully over the next month, we're going to add additional capabilities for actually working with data in the ledger so that you can do anything. Like long-term vision is you should be able to do anything in the MCP that you can do in double today. So those are the updates. I know that's sort of just a list, so just to make this more tangible, um, I'll just write a quick example here. We'll use the timers here, for example. So just an example question you might have of your employee base if they're tracking time in Tuple. So again, Claude will go and look through the list of options here. We'll see it's listing timers in Tuple, and then it's going to go and manipulate those timers as well. Okay, we have 86 timers. Okay, this is actually a really good point. Um, so depending on whatever you connect to Claude, all of the same permissions you have in Double will cascade into Claude. So if you're a standard user, you only have access to two clients, you're not going to be able to do things in Claude that you can't do in Double. Those permissions will still cascade downwards. We hopefully may not be or not going to be running into a Claude downtime issue, which does happen. So we'll see. It looks like it's chugging away. Okay. An anonymous attendee asked, "Is client data secure in Claude?" It's a great question. Broadly, we trust Claude's security with our own data. We connected all of our company's organizational systems, our call recording systems, our Salesforce, our uh, uh, like our double account. So we've connected all of our things to Claude and we trust it. I would say everyone should do their own independent assessment. Broadly, we think Claude and ChatGPT are very secure software systems. And I would say the recent release of models like Mythos, which is a model that is great at hacking things, you should actually be happy about this because if the model providers get this first, they can harden their own systems before they release systems like this internally. Okay, Des asked, will double support be able to help us troubleshoot in ChatGPT? I've added the app, but when I try to use it, it doesn't work. I think it's user error. Great question. And yes, double support would be more than happy to help. I will say, ChatGPT is like surprisingly not on the ball here. It is, you have to like, you can check our Help Center article for this. Double is, or the MCPs are sort of like, if they're not in the like ChatGPT App Store, which we've submitted to and are waiting on approval for, but if they're not like in that App Store flow, it feels like a very second-class citizen workflow. So I'm very surprised by that. But you're definitely not alone if you're struggling to get this up and running in ChatGPT. And feel free to reach out. We're happy to help. Okay, here we've got our totals. So we've got debugging and support is at 170 hours across 4 entries. I myself am at 17 hours across 79 entries. And I think the cool thing is we didn't even ask this, but it said that like debugging and support total is suspicious. It's 4 entries totaling 107 hours, and 3 of them has suspiciously round start and end time spanning multiple days. So these look like test and debug entries, not real work. If you exclude that user, then Ben Stein leads with 17 hours across 79 entries. So I think this is a cool example of the AI sort of going above and beyond. And again, this feels very human, right? Like if you asked your assistant to go and like run this tally for you, I think they might come back with a very similar answer. So I thought this was a sort of good example here. So of course, there's many, many things you can do in the MCP. This would be an example of just one of them. And then, of course, last but not least, in the practice settings in your activity log, you can now filter by source. So we already had the ability to show that something was updated by an MCP, but you can now filter for the source. So we can say, looks like I don't have anything this week. So we can say in the last 30 days, we have just done a couple of updates via the MCP. Of course, we could also include the API here or in-app. So again, just more filtering in the activity log so you can see what changes are happening with AI that you're doing manually or automatically. Okay. All right. Not directly related to the MCP, although I will take it anyways. Will we be able to pause time in the future? I know this is one of the most common timer questions. I definitely will take it back to the product team. Excuse me. And I know that that's something that uh, that we have gotten quite frequently, and hopefully we'll be able to answer in the affirmative before. Okay. Really, just one more question here, and then we'll open things up, or one more update. We'll just open things up to Q&A. This one is actually not a UI update. It is an under the hood performance update, but I did want to mention this because it touches such an important product surface, and that is prepare 10.9s. We have made some significant architectural upgrades to 10.9s, so it should be a much more performant report. It should reduce any sort of edge case bugs and weird issues that some accounts ran into. So just quick update, prepare 10.9s should now be much more performant and also much more scalable to add new features for long term. So get excited for the 2026 1099 filing season. All right, and with that, that is all of the monthly product updates. So now I will turn back to the remaining Q&A. And now if you have any other questions that were not related to any of the features that we talked about today, feel free to ask them now. Okay, an anonymous attendee asked, does the AI journal entries feature help create expense accounts or vendors if they are not in the QBO file? The answer is yes. So I think we saw this in the flow earlier, but if you want to, it can create those as well. So just I'll give an example here. Again, like this AI is super flexible. We could just say like create a new vendor called like Bob Smith Construction Company. I have not tested this before, so we'll see if this works, but I will do anything for my people. And a new account, we'll call this a new current asset account called test suspense account or webinar. I don't know if I'll run into a length issue, so we'll call this webinar suspense account. And as mentioned, the goal is that we're going to start adding more of this chat style experience across the app. So it's not just going to be contained within journal entries, but you'll be able to summon an AI chat throughout Double. Okay, so it's going to give me some questions. We want this to be a USD vendor. Oh, well. All right, so there we go. It created the vendor, created the account, and now just to show that this was not like a fake, well, maybe it didn't. We'll see. All right, so it should do this, but we're running into a bug. We will pass that back to the product team, and by the time you try this yourself, it will be results. Okay, Chet asked, does Double have a chat feature that can interact with the same data that the MCP servers can, i.e., reviewing and summarizing client notes? Great question. This is something that we should have, hopefully, by this time next month. So it's in the works, but not live just yet. Okay, Deanna asked, might be off topic, but will it be possible to create additional image pages on the reports or to create a multi-page PDF or include a multi-page PDF? We would love to have at least 3 image pages if possible. Great question. Can definitely take that back to the product team. Okay, Esther asked, I did create a request, but it is upvote dependent. So I'm just wondering if maybe it is in the pipeline. Will we be able to, in the near future, get Claude to create checklists or subtasks under a task? Interesting. I was not aware that this was not possible. So yeah, if it's not possible, we can definitely add that. It should be in the near future. An anonymous attendee asked, is there a way to let standard users view their client budget versus actuals with their timers? I actually think there is. It's buried in some setting somewhere. I think. Let's find out. We'll find out together. Yeah, okay. It's this setting. Display individual capacity planning to standard users. So if you have that on, then standard users should be able to view their capacity planning, which should show them the rated budget versus actuals. Harry asked, when starting bank feeds, is it possible to select the time period in which you want the transactions to come in from the bank? Should be yes. That should be one of the options after the connection flow finishes. Is it'll say, like, do you want to bring transactions in through before this date or after this date? I will mention that a lot of this is very bank dependent on how many total months going into the history of the bank you can pull. So I think 3 months is like the general max that like many banks support. Some support more, but most kind of only support 3 months. Okay, an anonymous attendee asked, will we soon have double receipts for 0 users? It's definitely active product discussion, so I don't have an answer for you right now, but ask again next month and maybe we'll have a different one. An anonymous attendee asked, is there a way to make notes templated so they can be applied across all clients? I believe yes. There is. You can have template notes. So if you have like a QBR or a prospect qualification call, you can use those templates. And then when you are creating a new note, you can pull in a templated note. An anonymous attendee asked any plans to create merge tags that differentiate between new questions and outstanding older questions. I will say it's not currently on our roadmap. It's an interesting idea. I can definitely go back and discuss it with them. An anonymous attendee asked, I like sit in this like tongue twister every single time, like 20 times a webinar. But nonetheless, an anonymous attendee asked, Sally selling seashells asked, circling back to the client UI, any plans to make this better? For example, sorting questions by date or tag. Definitely, we'll talk about this with the product team. I think Shane has already written that down. Okay, Esta asked, Ben, this is not a question, but a follow-up on my original question. This is the feedback I get out of Claude for subtasks and checklists. A double tool is available to me right now. Don't include any way to create or manage checklists or sub-items within a tasks. Message received. I will definitely get that fixed in the MCP. On the notes, anonymous attendee asked, on the notes, is there a way to apply it to multiple clients at once, much like tasks? That's a good question. I don't think so, but let's see. There is not. But if you want to write in support with just a note for me and saying like, hey, this is for Ben, follow up here, so we're not having this sort of back and forth on the live webinar. Would be curious to learn more about what the use case is there. Okay, and then Trial asked, will templates for the client detail section be possible in the future? My people love templates. Definitely, we'll talk about this with the product team. Not right now, but definitely would be more straightforward to add. Okay, that's the Q&A list. So if you were waiting to ask your question, you can ask it now. Okay, Mona asked a great question here. Bank feeds question. Is there a way to stop bank feeds from pulling in transactions that have already been added? For example, January will be done and closed, and then when I go to March, the January transactions current are being pulled again. Yeah, honestly, this is a bug, and I feel terrible about it, and it affects me too. I use doubles bank feeds, and I've run into this problem multiple times. The short answer is we're fixing this bug actively right now. I'm really sorry to everyone here who uses bank feeds for the disruption that this has caused. And I promise you we're going to get this bug fixed in fairly short.
There are some questions in the chat. If you guys could add them to the Q&A, but Ben, if you want to kind of skim them, there's a number in there.
Okay. Rebecca asked, are there any plans to create merge tags to differentiate between new and outstanding questions? I think Rebecca already put that in the original chat. John asked, can you go over the MCP again? Are you connecting Claude or ChatGPT in a double? If so, how are you doing it? Okay, great question. So just backing up, let's talk about what the MCP is. So MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, and an MCP server is basically a way of connecting any app into any other app that supports AI. So it's very similar to an API, which I know is like saying like this strange thing is similar to this other strange thing. But basically, the way to think about it is it is the sort of standard way of getting any AI to work with any other app. And so we have an MCP server, and you can connect that MCP server to Claude, to ChatGPT, to Copilot, to Gemini, to Linear, to any place that supports connecting another MCP server. And so I'll go through what it looks like to connect this to Claude, just so people have that for context. But you can use this anywhere. So our help center has more specific walkthroughs and instructions on how to connect this to, I think it's Claude, uh, Gemini, sorry, Claude, ChatGPT, uh, and Copilot. But obviously, if you look up how to connect an MCP server for whatever you happen to use, it will be basically the same walkthrough. Okay, so here in your, this is, we're on a team plan. So I believe this is in connectors. Customize, yeah, connectors, and then you'll see this plus option. So there's browse connectors. This is like the app store for Claude, and you'll see a similar thing for ChatGPT. But we are not in this app store yet. We submitted, so we're waiting for approval. So at some point, this workflow will change where you can just browse connectors and then search for double. You won't see that here just yet. But so today, you'll click Add Custom Connector here, and then you should call the MCP server double. And then we'll get the MCP server here. You'll grab the link here, api.doublehq.com/MCP. And then you just paste it in here and you click add. That's it. Once you're there, you'll see an option to connect. I've already done this here. You'll see an option that says connect up here. You'll click connect, and then that will help you, or that will walk you through the OAuth connection flow. You'll sign into Double, and then you'll be connected here. From there, there are different types of tools in Double. there's read-only tools and then there's write-delete tools. As a general rule, I recommend making all read-only tools always allow because basically the AI can't do anything destructive with a read-only tool. And then write delete tools all tend to have these be default to needs approval. And then as you ask to do something in double, so as you say, like, hey, add a timer for me for 1 hour that I worked yesterday on the client demo co, it will pop up a prompt and say, hey, do you want to allow us to use the add timer tool within the double MCP connection? And you can choose to allow it once or always allow. And then basically you'll sort of gauge your comfort level. And then I tend to actually allow things to be always allow, with the exception of delete. And I think one of the things you'll see is as you get more comfortable using this tooling, the AI doesn't often do crazy stuff. Now, like caveat AI user, so AI can do crazy stuff for sure, but like within a well-scoped experience, if you're like chatting to it, it will tend to do what you ask it to, as long as you're using the like latest models. So that has given me a lot of comfort giving these the always allow tools, with the exception of basically delete. Okay. And then once you've done that, basically in a chat, you don't even need to reference the tool, but sometimes it helps saying like in double like thing you want to do. But sometimes you can just say how much time have I tracked? And it will like go through and see like, okay, do I have a timer tool somewhere? Yes, I've got one in double, so I use that. But often, I don't know, a couple of extra words can go a long way to the AI. Okay. Christy asked, I use double Notion and Claude. If I have Notion connected to Claude and Claude connected to Double, will I be able to glean double info while in Notion? Great question. I think if you just have them both connected to each other, or if you just have them both connected to Claude, like Claude will be able to, like it sort of depends on your server configuration. I think Notion may support, we'll sort of do this live, but I think Notion may support custom MCP connections. We can see. Let's see. Settings, Notion MCP, manage. Okay, AI connectors. I don't see a custom connector option, so unclear. Okay, so coming back to the question, I use double Notion and Claude. If I have Notion connected to Claude and Claude connected to double, will I be able to glean info in double while in Notion? Probably not. However, if Notion does add a custom connectors option, then you will. Okay. Megan asked, what was the URL again? Presumably, this is the URL for the MCP server. If you ever lose this, by the way, just go to our help center, search double MCP server. Or again, you can ask our chat and say, hey, what's the MCP server? And our chat will know the answer as well. The MCP server URL is here, api.doublehq.com/MCP. Okay. Sarah asked, is there a way to see what the read-only permissions are before adding the connection? Yes. So, okay. So just to be clear, when you're in Claude, if you add the MCP server, once you add the MCP server, it will show you the tool spec. It will show you the list of all the available tools. That doesn't give it action to take any of the tools. You'll still need to connect one first. So this will say connect, and before it's connected, like double just doesn't have the like we won't have the capability to take any of the actions yet, because basically it will say here are the things I can do when you connect me to double, but double's not connected yet. Okay, Sarah asked, can we make a client to-do list? My clients don't see the non-transaction questions as anything more than just a question to answer. Um, it's a good question. I think if you can add some more context here and send it in a chat or a canny, would love to take a closer look at that. The non-transaction questions are the place for asking a client to do something. So if you think there's a way to better enshrine that in importance for the client, please let us. Okay, John asked, when will we be able to duplicate templates and move them to another section? When will the ability to duplicate templates and move them to another section be available? Okay, duplicating templates should already exist. Yeah, it's just this duplicate button. As for moving tasks between sections, I thought this already also exists. Yeah, so you can move tasks if I had a separate custom section available here.
I think the only limitation there is you can't move them between types of tasks.
Yes, that's very yeah, so you can't move things to from custom to non-closing, custom to closing, and vice versa. So yeah, we'll talk with the product team about that one, but I don't have a release date. Okay, will we ever be able to apply templates to older open closes? That's a good question, actually, a very interesting, nuanced question. definitely something I think we could add support for. I don't know that it's been something that we've prioritized historically, just given the sort of workflow of applying templates. But if you have some more thoughts on how you'd like to use that, please, if you wouldn't mind making a canny for that, or if there is an existing canny, adding your context there, and then also dropping that link into the chat. We'll take a look at that, and that would be very helpful because it's definitely possible. It's just not something that we've been asked before, or at least not something I've seen that we've been asked before. Okay, an anonymous attendee asked, is there a way to apply metrics to all clients, or do they need to be recreated each time? Right now, they do need to be recreated each time. A couple of thoughts here. One is we do actually hope at some point to add metrics templates. It's kind of it's frustratingly complex because basically you have unique charts of accounts for every client, and that sort of makes templates like quite complex. So that's one thought. The other is as we expose the MCP server, this may actually be something that you're able to just tell Claude to do or chat in doubles forthcoming chat capabilities. And anonymous attendee asked, is there a way to ask Claude which clients have open month-end closes, transaction questions, so I can have a to-do list? I just joined back in. Sorry if the question has been asked. Great question. Short answer is yes. Unfortunately, we're like almost out of time, so I don't have opportunity to demo, but I think this is a great opportunity to say, like, if you are curious about whether the MCP can do a thing, connect it and ask. And the MCP knows the answer of whether it can or can't do something. But I know in this case, it absolutely can. All right. Well, I think that is all of the time we have. So thank you all so much for joining us. And thank you for the great questions. I hope you like the new features we're working on. I appreciate your patience as we work to have everything that anyone could ever want in Double added to Double. So I hope you all have a great rest of your April. I look forward to seeing you all right back here this time next month, and have a great rest of your day.